Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast through until Sunday. And we've still got some windy weather on the way, some heavy rain in there, and also a little bit of life showing up now in the tropical northern parts of Australia. Let's have a look and make sense of everything. At the moment, though, most of the energy is to the south. Cold air flows are brushing the southern coastlines. Like I said the other day, the cold front that's moving along from west to east is basically sliding along the southern coastline. It's not really pushing inland very much, but it will grow further into the southeast corner in the coming days as a storm south of Australia tracks to the south of Tassie. So we've got wet weather in the western side of Tasmania, a few showers in the south, a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms also moving up the southern half of Western Australia. In the tropical area, not a lot of life at the moment, but we will see a bit more energy coming up in the form of isolated showers, thunderstorms and downpours over the coming week. So let's make sense of the air pressure at the moment. All eyes are on this big storm south of Australia. So it's not roaring up towards you, it's tracking along to the south, but therefore the cold front runs along the coastline, moves into the southeast over the next couple of days, basically arriving today and going into tonight and tomorrow. High pressure is not really over Australia. You've got high pressure out over the Tasman Sea, at least for Norfolk Island and Lord Howe Island. They've got the high pressure, a little bit stretching back to the central east coast. The other main high out over the Indian Ocean, and that's going to take a number of days before it even inches a little bit further towards us than it already is. So let's make sense of the wind. The first burst, or the next burst, coming through. Not as bad as it's been, but we are still seeing in the areas of purple, that's mostly out at sea, but that is brushing Australia as that storm system tracks by to the south. So we'll see gusty winds even coming up into the ACT and New South Wales, not so much in the coastal southeast, but more so in the alpine areas and up against the hills and ranges. On the bigger picture here, you can see that burst of windy weather, these sort of westerlies sliding up around the Sydney area as we go into tomorrow afternoon. And the rain comes into Victoria. Heaviest falls on the western side of the mountains, maybe getting up to 40 or 50 millimetres in some areas. And then Tasmania with those windy westerlies blowing through, as we just mentioned, potentially gale force and severe gale, even coming into Bass Strait and hugging and brushing coastal parts of Victoria. At the same time that all happens, the polar boundary comes up, brushes the southeast corner of South Australia, the southern and southwest corner of Victoria, and pretty much all of Tasmania by the time we get to the end of the afternoon. Elsewhere, not a lot to talk about. We do see a few showers through Central Australia and South Australia, not very much, but maybe a couple of isolated heavy showers with a thunderstorm in there. And the only other energy is really up here in the tropical part of Queensland, around Cairns and even Townsville area, where there are some heavier downpours around as more of a tropical easterly flow starts to develop. The red line, the red tropical boundary, that's going to drop southwards this week, giving you a taste of the next season that is around the corner, the hot season and the wet season. So let's have a look at Wednesday. High pressure moves into the southeast part of Australia. We've got showers further north of that. So where you see the blue in Queensland and New South Wales, especially the northern half of New South Wales, those are more likely to be showers and thunderstorms forming as we go through the day. Heaviest falls further into the coastal side of Queensland. There's a little bit of low pressure around the Kimberley and the Northern Territory. It's not doing much, but it is going to help drag that red line further southwards. The other feature, apart from Tasmania getting the windy polar westerlies coming through for you, and the further showers, patchy rain further up into Victoria and the ACT, New South Wales area, on the other side of the high pressure, there is the next cold front brushing the southwest corner of Western Australia. So another burst of showers and colder airflow, mostly right in that southwest corner, maybe a few isolated thunderstorms there as well. As we go to Thursday, high pressure still out over the Indian Ocean, hasn't moved very much, but it is now starting to spread a ridge of higher pressure into Western Australia and even a little bit into South Australia. Ahead of that high pressure zone, northwest winds develop. So in Tasmania, Victoria, you'll feel the temperature going up a couple of degrees as we go through to Thursday, as nor'westers come in, push the polar boundary south. Now, further into the northeast corner of New South Wales and right across Queensland, maybe a little bit into the Northern Territory, you're seeing some showers, downpours, isolated thunderstorms, not necessarily severe, but just some thundery weather developing here and there, and the red tropical boundary sinking further southwards, even more so as we go into Thursday. The next burst of windy weather looks to be around about 4 a.m. on Friday, but plus or minus a few hours this far out. What you're seeing is a burst of very strong winds coming straight off the sea, mostly on the western side of Tasmania, but as we go through the day, it might move further into the southern part, including Hobart. Where you're seeing purple, mostly on the tops of the hills and the ranges, getting the strongest gusts as they come on through, but wherever there is purple, that is the chance of a power outage or a tree down. As we go into Friday, you can see all that windy stuff. It's actually surging into Bass Strait, might even brush coastal parts of Victoria. You are seeing plenty of showers in the blue right across the eastern half of Australia. Showers, thunderstorms and downpours popping up, but the pale blue means it's at the bottom of the scale. Most places don't even get 5 millimetres out of some of those showers. And Western Australia is fairly dry, a couple of showers in the very southwest, and a bit of a brisk easterly coming through the Midwest. As we go through to the next wind map, this is now 4 o'clock Saturday morning, and again, low pressure south of Tasmania, putting a burst of very strong winds into two areas. It looks to be Bass Strait as one area where it's very windy, bit of a westerly wind tunnel, and then the very southern portion of Tasmania, including Hobart and surrounding towns and villages, where these winds could be pretty strong, getting up to 120 kilometre-an-hour gusts as that comes through. Again, this is a long way out, so being really detailed about the wind gust and the exact timing. So really you're just looking at a blustery burst of weather moving through again. So on the bigger picture, you can see that severe weather box, also the polar line coming up. So Hobart, yeah, you're getting a bit of a windy, unsettled day for you, and really all of Tasmania having an unsettled weekend. Showers and westerlies carry on for parts of South Australia, Victoria, but it's perhaps more of a southerly flow coming into New South Wales. So with a bit of a southerly airflow and warm daytime air, that can produce some thunderstorms. That's what we might be seeing here. And again, coming up into Queensland, thunderstorms and showers, fairly widespread, but not necessarily producing huge amounts of rain. And in the Northern Territory, also seeing some of that weather as that easterly flow pushes out, still a bit brisk and windy in some parts of Western Australia. There's also a fair amount of low pressure up here around the Kimberley, the Pilbara, and going into the top half of the Northern Territory. As we go to Sunday, now high pressure is returning. It's not a very tall high pressure zone, but it's a very wide one. And so it stretches all the way up from the Indian Ocean well through into New South Wales. But because it's only the edge coming into New South Wales, you get the southerly portion. So the temperatures are down, and on top of that, the polar boundary comes back up, this time into New South Wales, right onto the southeast border, but it might come into the ACT. And what that means is anyone on that blue line or south of it will feel that it's colder, as will the livestock. Around Tassie, again, another burst of potential severe damaging gales as we go through to the end of Sunday. We'll have to wait a few more days to lock that in, but that is the chance of the next severe weather box might even come up into Victoria as a result of that windy weather surging northwards, and more showers and thunderstorms for parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory, maybe just spilling over into the Kimberley. So let's have a look at the 7-day rainfall. This is it here. Most of the rain on the west coast of Tasmania, up to 150 millimetres there, and maybe a dusting of snow at times as well. Heavy rain coming into Victoria along the mountains on the western side, mostly of those hills and ranges, right up into parts of New South Wales. Rainfall's not huge, but it's still 20 to 40 millimetres coming through for some of you. And these showers you see around Queensland, they're going to move around a bit. It's not 100% locked in, because as you saw with all those different days, the showers are kind of scattered around the place, and it depends on which ones sort of trigger the heaviest falls. Large dry areas for Western Australia, not as wet as it's been, but most of that wet weather is coming into the southern and southwestern coastlines. So there we go, a bit of life around Australia as far as rainfall is concerned for those that want it. Not everyone does, but that is the rainfall for the next several days ahead. I'll be back again tomorrow, Tuesday, as we take a closer look at those windy events, the polar airflows, and who gets some of that lovely sun. I'll catch you later on.